estate which enables some developers not only to deliver their projects without much delay, but also win the customers' trust and gratitude. After all, a home is the biggest investment of most people's lives, and the joy of getting a good home is immeasurable. Today on the show, that's our central theme of the discussion. What do the good guys do which sets them apart? So that's what we're going to do with a panel of developers who, according to our report card of timely delivery, have topped the list. And also on our panel, well-known architects and consultants on how some of them in the industry are able to get it right. With me today, Chetan R. Shah, VC, Marathon Group. Also Kalhan Mattu, Director, Planet 3 Studios, Architecture. Here with me in the Delhi studio, Vineet Relia, Managing Director, Sare Homes. Sachin Sandhir, Managing Director, RICS South Asia. And also joining me, Anshuman Magazine, CMD, CBRE South Asia. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. I think we are constantly being told that over 600 shows and almost over 2.5 years of doing the property show that we've bashed developers at least 500 times. Well, it's time to actually acknowledge the good work done as well. Execution delays, we know, can't be completely eliminated. There are multiple factors ranging from approval delays to labor issues. But there are developers who, with their expertise, have managed to bring these delays down considerably. So let's give you the track record of the best developers, because last week and the week before you did get the track record of the worst as well. But we are going to balance it out and tell you who are the good ones. Now let's start with National Capital Region, which pan-India has the worst record of delivery. Let's look at the best ones now, because you need to know their names as well. Sare Homes tops the list there, IDEO Management, 3C Group, Vatika Group, Mahagun Group, Gorsons India and Paris Buildtech. These developers are the ones who have, with minor delays, and when we say minor delays, it's 12 to 14 months. The business is a long gestation one. It's dependent, as we said, on approval. So that's something which is acceptable and all right. Developers with a steady track record in the Mumbai market, and they are actually ranked in terms of certain parameters by Prop Equity Research. Those three group tops the list, MMR. Marathon Realty follows very, very closely. Kalpatru comes next, Sangvi Group, Ravi Developers and Ekta World. So that's the list for Mumbai region. Also Bangalore, a market which actually has a long list of developers. It was tougher to cull out the top ones there. Purvankara Project, Shobha Developers, Mahavir Reddy Structures, Prestige Group and Brigade Group. So a lot of the names very familiar. New players obviously recognizing the need to deliver in time and deliver quality. So let's divide our discussion in a couple of parts, but the biggest one, timely delivery. What does it take? Let me start with Vineet Relia here. Vineet, top the NCR chart, but that's also because there's no legacy. You knew all that was wrong in the India market. So, you know, you came with a lot of learnings, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. In fact, when we started, we first thought, let's sit and analyze what was going wrong according to us. And some of the key parameters which came out, like we said, first thing, we've seen a lot of developers, you know, focusing on insourcing. They would do everything in-house, from even the construction practices to design, detailing, design. So we said, no, we're going to follow, we want to build a scalable business. The first rule is we'll outsource everything. Right. Now that leads to my second point, where, you know, we have the advantage of riding on a lot of external expertise, because you know, you could be actually riding on n number of consultants across geographies, across nations, and you could pull in the resource you want at any point in time. If you're focusing on in-source, you know, you kind of in a way stuck with the people you're working in, and you just can't go out.
Important point, outsourcing.
The third point which we said was, yes, we want to have a national focus rather than a local focus, because you can have market issues and dynamics which at times will slow down project. Could be approval related issues, could be a market issue, you know, could be anything. So it's very important as an organization, if you want to build a scalable thing, you got to have a national focus. You got to divide your risk. Then there was a classic, you know, which we've spoken about the show on many times, is the lack of liquidity. You know, it's very, very apparent. A lot of developers, you know, the houses are sold and the money is diverted into land banking. Right. So, you know, as a company, we don't get into land banking. We get into projects which are, all our projects are completely watertight and there is no fund movement across projects. Which also leads us to another thing, that we don't get into the land aggregation business. You know, somebody needs to really define a clear geography between, there's a clear difference between an aggregator and a developer. A developer like us, we go pick up approved land or likely to be approved land, then focus on building the home rather than getting into aggregation where there is no, you know, in spite of the best efforts, aggregation and approvals can get into any kind of delays.
Okay. So some of the key ones for timely delivery of the project, I think capsuled. Chetan Shah, right there at the top of the Mumbai list, what are you doing right with your business?
See, there are three points which delay the projects. Customer delay is something that we need to take care of. So whenever we buy land, we need to get it approved. So whenever we launch a project, it is all approvals in place. So the delay from acquisition of land till approval is actually on developer's account and it is not given to the customer. Now once the project is approved and it is launched, there are intermediate approvals that are required in Bombay, like further commencement certificate and things like that. Now with our 45 years experience in real estate activity, we know how much time it takes. So that is already built into our model. So that again doesn't affect our customer. And finally, there is a third point of delay which takes place because of the government's changing rules halfway into the game. That's where we don't have control. Now, having said all these things about approval, there is also an execution risk. While you are executing, there are best practices available. You know, what they taught us at IIT 30 years ago of ERT and CPM method, which was done on paper, is now done using software. So we build into it all the activities. And at Marathon, we have 3,000 broken up activities in a project. So all 4-year plan is already known to the minutest of detail, that which month, which week, what activity is going to be done. And then we have this monthly plan given to the site and actively followed up by weekly coordination meeting. So this way execution risk also gets reduced.
All right, Sachin Sandhir, I'm going to, before I come to you, I'm going to actually look at some of the challenges for developers, though both the gentlemen who run very efficient companies in the real estate business have outlined quite a few of them. One is outsourcing versus insourcing. That's something that Vineet Relia just highlighted. Large Indian developers adopting the in-house construction model, which results in limited abilities to scale up and down quickly. Limited leverage of external expertise. And that also is a big constraint. In-house construction team tends to rely on internal experts and does not leverage the external consultant and operational expertise. Lack of liquidity, again being pointed out. Almost all Indian developers are highly leveraged and they also tend to divert funds into buying and aggregating land along with other practices of diversion of funds. So this keeps them perpetually stretched, which cascades down to vendors, leading to construction delays. I think also vendors have this constant complaint with real estate industry. They don't get their payments in time, so they stop the supply of material. No standardization. Almost all large developers concentrate on luxury projects with unique designs and features. They're therefore not able to leverage on a replicable model based on standardization. And we've already talked about some delays which are beyond the control of the developer. Lack of management depth. This is unique to Indian industry. Many developers, including larger ones, are structured as a family business. The patriarch in most cases is still around and is very hands-on, leading to a highly centralized decision-making process. Sachin Sandhir, is that pretty much the summary of why so many get it wrong in this business?
I think absolutely. We carried out a research on the skills gap that exists within the real estate industry, and the fact that most development businesses tend to be very family-driven businesses still. And I think one of the key things that we realized was that there was a huge shortage of professionals within these organizations, and there was really no management depth, and decision making was very, very centralized. And I mean, you look at all core skill sets. You look at project managers, you look at effective cost managers, people who are looking at assessing risk associated with the projects. That entire lack of skill set was, was a major reason as we saw it within most real estate companies. So lack of management depth definitely is a key concern, and obviously the fact that most businesses haven't corporatized. Some of the reasons why some of these developers have done well is because they have corporatized. They've got professionals who are actually running these businesses, and I think that separates some of the developers who have actually have delivered projects on time vis-a-vis some of the people who have not delivered on time. So yes, definitely a key issue.
All right, Anshuman Magazine, mismanagement is something which even the largest developers in the country have been tagged with, and they are paying a heavy price for their brand erosion today. How would you distinguish between, okay, developers who have just gone wrong without intentionally doing so, and then the ones who actually are intentionally diverting funds, etc. So how does a customer really get to the bottom of how does he pick the right developer?
See, besides everything else which is mentioned about outsourcing, the bottom line is the process, system and people. Like you rightly mentioned, most of the developers are family-owned businesses. They've really started, a lot of them started building the org chart only when the prior to equity money started coming in 2006-07, where they said, look, we're going to put money in your organization or in your project, but where are the people? What's your org chart? What about the processes? What about the systems? All this is happening, and I think that does make a big difference. And this is not only processes and system for construction, but also people and processes for running their own businesses. So I think that's a major difference. A lot of the developers went national. As you know, real estate is a local business. Even internationally, even if you go to the United States, most of the developers are local. Now, there's nothing wrong in going national, but in the past, as you know, a lot of developers went national, but they did not have the capacity, they didn't have the processes, and now we are seeing a trend where a lot of these developers are actually cutting down nationally and focusing on their core areas where they're working. Another point which has not been mentioned so far, and we don't think about it, a lot of the developers who are struggling right now, besides all the issues about management and liquidity and etc., the many other issues, is really price discovery and price gradation. What had happened is, in the past, you will see a developer launching a project at a price, and suddenly he sells 100 apartments in 1 week, and everybody is really happy. Look, the project has done fantastically well. But what is not forgotten but not taken into account is that he has another 400 or 500 to sell, and after 6-9 months he realizes that the price, either the price he has launched at, what it sold was not being able to, he was not able to hold on to this price, and now he's not able to sell the rest. Because of that, sales come down. Because of that, there's no liquidity, and the project gets delayed because he doesn't have money to pump in into the project. Sometimes the other mistakes which have been made is that, okay, he's launched at the right price, but then now he's increasing the price after every 3-6 months, and then he goes wrong. So I've seen a project, let's say he's started at 100 rupees, and he's suddenly, after a short period of time, is increased the price to 150. He gets some absorption, then he goes to 175, and that's little absorption, and then he's not able to sell. Now the problem is he can't drop the price because already 40% of the project is sold at an X price. So this is also a critical factor for delay in projects which we have not discussed so far, and we don't think about it.
Anshuman, that's a very, very smart point that you raised. In fact, we also know, and this was discussed very recently in the MCHI CREDAI AGM, on how there was an expert who very openly said developers also tend to hold on in the hope that FSI will be increased. So not only pricing, but there are a lot of reasons, isn't it, Mr. Shah, where developers actually end up holding on to projects. But we'll come back to that a little bit later. Kalan Mattu, you're on the inside of the business. Look at it from an architect's point of view and tell us what separates the wheat from the chaff or the good from the bad.
I think it's professionalism 1, 2 and 3. I think some of the forward-looking developers who have systems and processes in place. They know how to engage with professionals outside the system. They know how to use the talent well to actually achieve desired objectives. And currently I'm working with developers who are aware to the extent that they're using building information technology or building information management for design creation, and we're working with their teams on that. We're using building assembly management. We are even looking at the operations of the building through their life cycle. So that kind of sophistication and professional approach is kind of needed to align these projects on a path to success. But having said that, this would be probably the future way of doing things, and I think I would really urge a lot of our developer friends here to sort of engage with the future. But the issues that remain in the industry are very basic. I mean, the issues are about lack of skilled labor. The issues are about on construction, on how sites are constructed, the technologies, the antiquated technologies that we are still using in spite of the world having moved away and moved on probably 2 decades back. The issues are about the quality of project management that we actually do on sites. So all these kind of come together, and yet even in this day and age, design, construction, engineering happens in isolation, and they're not truly integrated. So a lot of these things do tend to influence the quality of the outcome. They tend to influence the schedule that we manage to adhere to. They also manage to impact the cost of the project.
All right, so quality of the product, I think we're going to come back and discuss that. So one is on-time delivery, but then also, have you actually delivered what you've promised to the customer? Some of those glossy brochures don't show anything close to reality. Some of those sample apartments are way different from what the person or the home buyer actually gets it. Even in terms of common areas, the landscaping shown, there's many a slip between the cup and the lips. Let's come back and discuss what the best developers do to make sure that what's promised is delivered.